As the night deepened, her earlier confession faded into the fabric of the evening, as if it had never been. She checked her watch. 45 minutes past the appointment time. This date was something that had been arranged by her brother, his attempt to show her there was compromise to be found between the hunter ideology and her own. The man she was to meet was a legacy hunter himself, someone whose reputation whispered of salt and silver, and a union of Van Helsing and Wolfsbane would be advantageous for both sides. Admittedly, Abby had been curious, enough at least to risk a rendezvous. As she told the bartender, this was a test of courage and resolve. His, or hers. After her sudden revelation, she wasn't quite certain of who she had been testing all this time. But after finally admitting that she wasn't attracted to human men, maybe it was better to acknowledge the so-called test was merely a smokescreen. Still, it was simple and always the same. She chose places where the city's uneasy peace was most delicate, where supernaturals and humans brushed shoulders and measured one another with every glance. If her date showed, it meant he understood the world as she did, complicated, edged with promises and threats. But time trickled away like rain down the windowsill. The hours stacked and the crowd shifted from dusk's first arrivals to night's true denizens. Around her, laughter grew bolder, conversations darker, but the seat beside her remained stubbornly empty. Abby's cocktail grew watery. She sipped and stirred to keep her hands busy. She was starting to feel pathetic. Disappointment, dull and familiar, began to settle in. She was used to these orchestrated meetings amounting to nothing more than wasted time. Most times she was relieved that whatever loser her mother, aunt, cousin, or whomever had persuaded to give her a portion of his evening had bailed. She didn't particularly mind getting dressed up and going into the city at night. Still, tonight's sting surprised her. Swayed by Oleander's promise, she had hoped, just this once, for something more. Despondent and more than a little tipsy, she didn't notice the eyes that lingered on her now, the unblinking, luminous gaze of a being whose presence moved like music beneath the chatter. He had noted her entrance, the calm with which she navigated the room, the way she wore her hunter's heritage like armor and invitation. Her choice of venue piqued his interest. Humans so rarely ventured here unescorted unless they carried ulterior motives. As the bar clock nudged toward midnight, Abby gathered her things. He watched her slide from the stool and slip into her coat. She cast one last glance at her phone before she stepped outside. Still no message, no apology. With a sigh, she closed the door behind her. Rain fell in silver sheets, the city's lights refracted in every puddle. The click of her heels muffled by tiny puddles forming on the wet stone sidewalk. She made her way toward the street, shadows stretching long behind her. She didn't see the creature bid a quiet farewell to his table, rising with the casual grace of one accustomed to command, nor did she hear him slipping, silent as a shadow, through the bar's side door. Outside, the rain softened the edges of everything. The world blurred. Abby exhaled, letting disappointment dissipate into the cool night air. She didn't know, as she turned beneath the awning and set her face toward the street, that she was not alone. Behind her, a figure lingered beneath the city's glittering shroud, watching. With measured steps, he closed the distance between them. Tonight, in the liminal space between predator and prey, legacy and longing, the city's story would change course. Abby ducked her way from one sparse awning to the next until she reached the edge of the street. She lingered beneath the final shelter, the rain shimmering down on the city in endless silver threads. Her fingers curled around the slim clutch, just big enough for a phone and house keys. She weighed her options. Flag down a cab and hope for a miracle in the storm, or brave the weather for the subway, a half-block trudge that promised wet feet and ruined composure. For a moment, she closed her eyes, listening to the lull of water against pavement, the echo of distant engines, the laughter spiraling from the bar behind as the door opened and shut. She shifted her weight, prepared to surrender to the inevitable soaking, and stepped to the edge of the shelter when a dark blue Bentley glided from the night, headlights slipping over puddles. The sleek car settled at the curb. The rear passenger door swung open with quiet precision, and there he was, standing beside the rear door, an umbrella angled toward her. He was an angel of chivalry, a bridge of midnight blue silk spanning the chasm between awning and luxury. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. The invitation was in his steady hand, in the way he held the umbrella's arc against the storm, offering safe passage from one threshold to another. Abby hesitated, pursed tight in her grasp. Her heart beat a quick drumbeat against her ribs. She met his gaze, searching for signs of threat and finding none. For half a second, she hovered at the threshold, where rain met silk, expectation hanging between one breath and the next. Abby's mind raced, every instinct honed by more than family legend. There was the tingling feeling of imminent danger rippling through her spine. She could hear her mother's voice in the back of her mind, almost feel the protective hand gripping her shoulder, begging her to stand still. Even if she hadn't been born to hunt, hadn't spent years learning when to trust a stranger's smile or note the hints of darkness in someone's voice, it was basic wisdom. Never step into an unfamiliar car with a man you don't know. And yet, her caution dissolved. There was something about the way he waited, umbrella delicately poised, that suggested she'd be safe, if only for this crossing. Reason lost its war with intrigue. She let herself be swayed by imaginary whispering of what-ifs. What if, just this once, she ignored the etiquette of survival? She accepted, offering a barely audible thank you. The rain pattered on the umbrella as she stepped forward, the world narrowing to the hush beneath its shelter. Two realities pressed close. A fragile truce spun between shadows and possibilities.